Okay. So in the chat, I'm just going to check real quick and see if anybody had anything about the minutes. Okay. Seeing nothing there, I'm going to go ahead and move on to item number 3, which is probably the item most of you are more interested in anyway. So let's talk a little bit about the fundamentals class. As most of you are well aware, we had a class that started in March of last year, and we ended up having to delay that class and finished it up in a virtual platform in October. And we learned a lot by doing that, and one of the things that we're hoping to improve on in this next delivery is the time frame. So to give you a sense of that, in October we had basically 8 days of in-person that were left between weeks 3 and 4. It was 8 in-person days, and that ended up taking us the month of October to be able to do virtually. A lot of that was primarily learning curve, trying to figure out how to do this in this new platform. But a lot of it was also based on what we had learned from doing the research, that you really need to kind of deliver virtual training in small blocks of time. We did not want to have people in front of a computer for 8 hours a day. And so it ended up extending out perhaps a little longer than any of us would have liked. But nonetheless, we did get the class accomplished and graduated, I believe it was a class of 32. During the course of 2020, we obviously created a little bit of a backlog because we were not able to deliver the 2 full classes that Albany typically delivers. And the other local academies were also a little bit stymied in their ability to deliver their FPP classes as they would have liked. Those who were able to do some in-person deliveries were really limited in who they could invite. And so I believe it was either December or January, our office did an outreach to all the departments and basically surveyed to see what the needs were. And we asked each department to report how many officers they currently had that needed fundamentals training. And from there, we were able to kind of, once we had a sense of what the need was, we were able to start developing a plan. And that plan includes us really reaching out. There are 7 academies across the state, including Albany. So we've reached out to our other 6 partners and just, started planning to see if we could do something together. We have a vested interest in getting all the officers across the state through this training. Kind of catch up, if you will, on a little bit of the backlog that COVID had created. And so what we came up with is a fully virtual plan that we hope to be able to. Our plan right now is to start it on April 5th. You guys are hearing this first. So April 5th is the intended start date. We are working out a couple of scheduling details, but our original plan put us kind of into late May for our first delivery of this, and reworking the schedule a little bit, we think that we're going to be able to do this in the beginning of May. So it really ends up being about 5 weeks, right? An in-person 4-week training we think we're going to be able to do virtually in 5 weeks, which is a big improvement from what I just explained to you that happened in October. And I'll get into details in a second with that. But, clearly we're going to, just like we always do, we're going to need to prioritize those who come into the April class by the hire dates, right? We want to get the folks who were hired, sooner, like in the 2019. We have several people hired in 2019 who haven't been through the academy, and we're going to prioritize them in that way. Right now, by the survey we took, we have, I believe it was 38 people across the state who need the training. And so our first cohort is going to be half of that. We're going to take about 19 individuals into our academy in April. And that academy is going to be very different in terms of the model and the format and the delivery. So I'm going to pause here just for a second before I get into any minutia and detail, and just ask if folks can kind of dump something in the chat. If there's any questions before I get any further into this conversation. Okay, and I'm just going to ask that my team, Jessica and David, kind of monitor that chat and interrupt me if you need to. So let me share then, what we came up with. And this, by the way, was a very nice collaboration with all of the other Academy representatives. So we have academies running in Erie, in Monroe, in Albany, in Westchester, New York City, Nassau, and Suffolk counties. And, I'm very fortunate that I have great representatives in each of those academies who were willing to just come and pitch in and do whatever they had to make this all work. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I believe they're all on this call. Well, what we came up with, and we've tweaked this a bit even since the last time I met with that group, we've come up with a plan to be able to pre-record a lot of the modules. At least in week 1, it's almost completely pre-recorded. And then a lot of week 2, we're also pre-recording. And so what that's going to look like, and that may be scary to some people, but just hear us out. So week 1 is the officer safety and survival training for the first day and a half. And then the rest of the week is all the peace officer modules. Now, with the exception of the use of force module, which obviously it's an 11-hour module, there's probably some more moving parts in there, arguably, than there are for some of the other peace officer modules. That one we're going to do as a blended model. But for the most part, all of week 1, we think lent itself pretty well to calling on instructors from across the state to basically sign up for the module that they would like to deliver. We're going to schedule and set up all of the WebEx pre-recording times and do dry runs with these individuals and have them record those modules to make them available to the students. And if you can imagine, students will be able to kind of work at their own pace to an extent in week 1. We're going to have planned check-in times where they have to have completed certain modules in order to move on. So the class will all move together and finish week 1 together. But how folks kind of, if they decide to do, 2 modules in a day or 3 modules in a day, that's really going to be up to that individual and their supervisors or directors to set that schedule. But in the absence of, what we would normally do in a classroom, right? We would normally be checking in with people. We would normally be, answering questions on the spot with people. So in the absence of that, what we've been trying to do is build in what we're calling learning checks. And it's almost like homework. So every single module has learning objectives attached to it, and those learning objectives drive the exam questions. And so what we're doing is creating basically small, almost quizzes within the Blackboard platform that we've been using for testing, so that each student, when they complete a module, they will have homework assigned that they will have to log into Blackboard, complete those assignments. Those assignments get reviewed by the instructors teaching the module. And then about twice a week, if not 3 times for some weeks, we're having coaching calls where we will check in with each of those students. We will be sure that everybody is, on pace with one another. If there's a student who's falling behind or needs a concept, more clearly explained, we're able to catch it during those coaching calls with the goal of everyone being prepared and ready uniformly by the end of the week so that they can take their exam. So that is a really kind of quick snapshot, if you will, of what this model will look like for all of week 1 and then much of week 2. Week 2 has a few modules that really lend themselves a little, well, actually most of week 2 is pre-recorded. There's a couple in there that we thought might be a blended model, like the race and equity module. And then as we move into the latter weeks of 3 and 4, we plan to deliver those very similarly to how we did in October. It's going to be more interactive. It's going to be live interactive modules, 90% of it. But we found ways by using the recordings that we did in October So we recorded those modules. We have a sense of the timing, and we've gotten feedback from the instructors who taught in October that have allowed us to be able to make a better, I don't want to say guess, more educated guess, I guess, of the schedule, the actual time it takes us to be able to deliver that module. And in doing so, we were able to cut that back. So we think that week 3 will start somewhere around April 26th, and the entire academy will end on May 7th. So I don't want to, send that announcement out today because I want to make sure that our timings are going to be 100% accurate before I finalize those dates, but that's a pretty good ballpark range of when the class is going to begin and end. And as I mentioned, we're going to be doing a lot of the pre-recording in week 1. And so as we get most of it, it's almost all filled up right now. People have signed up for these modules. And now we're going to get them to actually do the dry run of the pre-recording so we can nail down how long it's going to take. And as you can imagine, when you're just doing a straight pre-recorded lecture without, having, to stop to answer questions or to have students take breaks or, demonstrate something in a live classroom, it goes a lot faster. I've actually done a couple of them here just to practice, and it's about half the time. So, about an hour module is taking roughly a half an hour to record. So I know David Lewis is on the line here with us too, and he has been kind of the one behind all of the scheduling. We're getting folks lined up to teach. He's going to start lining people up this week for all the week 1 modules to start doing the dry runs. And after those dry runs are done, I think we'll be able to finalize the actual schedule and all of the dates. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. I'm going back to the chat just to make sure that I haven't missed anything. And so really, folks are going to know who's going to get accepted into the academy, I would say, probably by the end of the month. We want to make sure, like I said, of the dates. The last thing I want to do is send out an announcement and confirm a class and not be able to tell you exactly when it's going to end and when it's going to begin. That would be kind of reckless of us. So I need a little bit more time to send out the announcement. But I think if we do it by the end of February at the latest, it gives folks plenty of time. We have, like I said, 19 spaces in this class. The second class, we're going to take a little break in the rest of May, and then we'll run the exact same model in June and July. And so our entire backlog of officers will be completely caught up before the end of the summer, which I think is fantastic. And then we'll all be back on track. And again, we're going to be pulling in the resources from all 7 academies. We've got instructors who teach in every academy who are coming to teach virtually in these 2 academies. And then, hopefully by then, the world will be a little bit different by the end of the summer, and we can start thinking about, getting back to some kind of a normal routine. But I think that really, is what we have to deliver in terms of the upcoming academy. So I'm going to pause here again and just ask folks if you have any questions about that model. Any comments? And David and Jessica, feel free if there's something that you want to include in that conversation.
Patty.
Yeah.
It's Chris from Schuyler. You said you didn't want to run 8 hours a day straight through with, somebody sitting in front of a computer. So, and they're going to work at their own pace. Can they get it done in a couple days and then do work? How's that going to work? Because if they're not sitting there for 8 hours a day for 5 days, they're working for 2 hours a day and then they're not doing anything, or what? How does that?
Yeah.
Are you going to have time to actually perform duties?
Yep. Yeah, Chris, excellent question. So again, this is kind of all new for us, and I would love to get some more thoughts, but our intention was we're not going to take up their full day. And I know that they have other duties. So I think that, the individual officers and their directors and supervisors should work this out amongst themselves. What we're going to say is if you start on the 5th and your exam is going to be scheduled, that week on the 9th, you're going to have certain times where you need to check in. So I'll give you a quick example. Right now, the schedule starts them on the 5th. They have their first coaching call on the 7th. So what we would think with officers would do is they would have to plan accordingly to make sure that they got all their homework and all those recordings done. And when they get to the 7th at their coaching call, they attend that coaching call, which will roughly run for an hour. And we need to be sure that they are on pace. You need to be sure that they're on pace, right? It's going to give a lot more flexibility. If they end up having to write a PSI or, supervise some of their cases in between, this allows for that versus them sitting in the classroom. But everything that we are, in terms of research, what we're reading tells us you will lose people. They will not absorb the learning if you sit them in front of that computer that whole block of time. And I just really think that it's a bad idea. So building this in allows for flexibility for the student and allows for flexibility for the department. And frankly, if everybody's comfortable with this, and at the end of the day, we've been able to deliver the content that they need to be able to be safe and do their jobs, that's really kind of what our goal is here. I'm less focused on just trying to get people through to pass an exam. I want the learning to occur, obviously.
Absolutely.
And it's my concern doing it in this format, but I also feel like we're at a time where we have to kind of be willing to step outside that box. And, it's a little bit scary to do it this way, I think, but I'm also kind of excited that I think it's going to open up a lot of opportunities and allow for that type of flexibility that departments need, right? It's tough when kids are in the academy and they're away and, all of a sudden they get a call, they have to testify, and there's a lot of stress on everybody. I feel like, if they have something during the week and there's a pre-recorded week here and you have the ability to kind of do this as you need to, I think that allows for the officers to be able to get, those things done that they wouldn't normally be able to get done if they were sitting in a classroom.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question. Any other thoughts about that? Because it is a departure, right, from what we all kind of are comfortable with and what we've been doing. So I'm curious if other folks have any comments about that.
Patty, can I just chime in real quick, too, is that, Chris, with regards to carving out time and schedules, once we have all these pre-recorded modules recorded, we'll be able to give an exact time frame as how long they will all take. So the officers should dedicate times within those days that those modules are to be viewed on their schedule and carve that time out to do that and complete that work as far as the pre-recorded stuff goes. As far as the live instruction, when we're doing live instruction, we would require all of the attendees in the academy to have their schedule completely cleared during the live instruction, and that'll be mainly in weeks 3 and 4, and also when they complete their motivational interviewing training, which will now occur in March due to our budgetary reasons. But things will all become much more clear once we have all the recordings complete, which we hope to have done, within the next few weeks.
Right, and so David moved us to the next bullet there. If you see under 3, I have A, 1, and 2, and the MI course was the piece that I was going to get to here. So as you all know, motivational interviewing is now part of our Fundamentals Academy. And we've done train the trainers, and just about every academy now is self-sufficient to be able to deliver that piece. We did it in March ourselves. Myself and 2 other folks in our office are trained, and we delivered that in person in March. what was a bit of a challenge was trying to figure out how to deliver that, because it's very interactive in a virtual platform. And so rather than try to sort that all through in a hurry, right, because we wanted to get this class, going, we decided to just utilize the basic MI class that's already created for our online platform through the Virali group. We currently have a contract, and we've been rolling out classes across the state all during 2020 and throughout so far in 2021. And so rather than us trying to reinvent something that already exists, what we decided to do was just use the Virali group to teach the MI portion for this academy and give us a little bit more time to figure out how we're going to do that in future classes. However, because our funding runs on a fiscal year, March 31 is the end of this fiscal year, and I had no guaranteed funds to be able to hire Virali group in April. And so what we're going to do is when this class gets confirmed, those students will attend the MI course. I believe we've got some dates. I'm not sure if they're official, but the end of March, there will be 2 days, I believe, in person, online, that these students will do the MI portion ahead of the academy. They'll come in having already gone to the MI class, and then those days will be removed from our calendar, which actually freed up a little bit more time for us, right? It took those 2 solid days right out of the schedule. So once we figure out, the exact dates, we'll certainly send out that application by the end of February, but those students who will attend in April will do the MI portion in March. And we'll give you all of those details as soon as we nail those dates down. So thank you, David, for moving through there. And what David is referring to is when we get to weeks 3 and 4 and we're more on a virtual live instruction, that schedule is a little bit more set, if you will. So the pre-recordings where the flexibility existed, it's not going to have that same flexibility because we need them to be signed into the WebEx at a certain time and, at certain intervals throughout that week. So that schedule will be much more firm. And looking at what we've planned, it does, for the most part, go through a 9 to 5 day. But again, it's a true 8 days, right? So weeks 3 and 4, the 8-day in person that we did in October, which took the month, this time it's taking the true amount of time. So it's not going to be like they have to block out a month's time to get through weeks 3 and 4. It'll be much more reasonable, I think, in terms of timing. Okay. So I think, unless there's other questions, I can move on to item B, which really is just kind of a reminder for folks, because we've been getting a couple of questions. You all know that last April, we sent out the State Director's Memorandum 2020-6, which basically, suspended the requirement that departments have to train new officers within 6 months of their appointment. And obviously, due to COVID, that was not possible. Now, of course, we've been able to deliver academies. Other folks have been able to deliver academies, and we're starting to kind of get our capacity back. But we don't want anybody to be concerned that you're violating any kind of regulation here. We're still holding that suspension. It's still valid. Director Macarone had advised me to make sure that I made that clear, and I wanted to put it on the agenda to be clear, because we have had a couple of folks reach out to us to ask, I don't know if I'm out of regulation now. Until further notice and until, Commissioner Macarone decides otherwise, that temporary suspension is still in place. Okay, so I don't want directors on the call to be concerned that you're, not in compliance with that. We are going to get back to a place where we'll be able to deliver academies on a regular basis, and no one will have to be concerned about this. And at that time, we'll lift that suspension and just return back to our normal function. But for now, that suspension remains. Okay. So this is the part where I get to kind of turn it over to my partner agencies here, my partner academies. So I'm going to ask, let me see, is there a representative from Suffolk County? Could you indicate yourself in the chat and I will unmute you? I'm not sure if Suffolk is here, nor do I think that they're planning a class. Okay. All right, we'll come back to Suffolk. How about Nassau? Is Darlene or anyone else on the call from Nassau? Carrie Shannon, are you on the call? Carrie,
She
there you
is.
go.
Patty, I don't know if you could hear me.
I can. Hi, Carrie.
I'm here. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to report out anything that might be happening in Nassau with your academy.
We don't have anything yet. We're hoping for the end of the year or sometime this year, but nothing has been settled as of yet. We still have a hiring freeze.
Okay. Well, there's no surprise there, right?
Yeah.
And of course,
We had just a 3 from last year. That was it.
okay. And Carrie, just like all the other academy sites have been offering up some instructors to cover some of the modules that we're going to deliver in April. I know I have at least, Darlene has signed up for 1 or 2 different things, so thank you to Nassau for that input.
You're welcome. If you need somebody else for OSST, there was somebody that was available. The person who teaches a good portion of our peace officer is on vacation till the end of the month.
Okay.
So he wasn't going to be available, but I have 2 other people that were available for, the live instruction the other weeks, if you need people for that.
Yeah, we're pretty good with that. I think what we're going to do is take an assessment of what modules are still left and probably send out a reminder to folks. So that'll be coming out maybe by the end of the day, if not tomorrow. But right now, OSST looks like it's pretty well covered. I appreciate that, Carrie.
Okay, no problem.
All right. How about New York City? Do I have Kim Irby?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Kim.
So, hi. So New York City is again New York City. We have our
We're having a little trouble hearing you, Kim.
Okay, is it better? I know I've been hearing that today. Is it better
That
now?
seems better. That seems better, yes.
I think I have to lean all the way into the computer. So I was saying that New York City is again New York City. Our deputy commissioner has been working really hard to get an approval for hiring. We thought that we were going to have something back in January.
Kim, I'm sorry. We're still not able to hear you.
Okay. Let me see if I can. I'll see if I can turn it up, and maybe that will help. Is this better? Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay, great. And so we had anticipated a class.
It's okay. It's not really better. It's better for a second.
Can you
and
call?
Then you say no. So
Can you call,
I think
Kim?
maybe if you want to call in, Kim, and I'm going to move down to Westchester and give you a chance. I think it's your
Okay, I'm
internet.
gonna put it in the chat.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and let Daniela, if you are here from Westchester, if you want to go ahead.
Hi, Patty. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. We're going to host in person. We got a space large enough. We are, forget our number, but I think we're like 13 or 14 POTs. We'll have 3 are from Westchester and the others are from Orange County. So we'll be doing that in June.
Excellent. Yes, and thanks to Daniela taking on some of the load, we were able to actually whittle down the larger list that we had, right? And create the ability to do 2 classes. So thank you to Westchester.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, how about Monroe? Is Kelly on?
Hi, Patty. Can you hear me?
I can.
You're probably getting sick of that question.
It's okay. It's a good question.
So as of right now, Monroe is not planning on hosting any kind of spring academy. We do have one trainee who needs to go through fundamentals, but we're hoping that she can join one of the virtual academies coming up. She's going to be our guinea pig and see how that goes. And then as far as I know, the civil service test is supposed to be offered this spring, summer. I don't know if that's actually true. That's a rumor that I'm hearing. So I don't know if that means we'll be having an academy in the fall, which we don't normally do. We usually do it in the spring. So we're kind of waiting to see if we get any more hires. But we're definitely planning on participating in the virtual academies with you guys and then sending one at whatever point she's able to get in.
Awesome. Yes, and you guys have been fantastic, too, in responding to kind of the call for instructors here and getting folks lined up. Honestly, I think the fact that we're able, I don't know why we didn't think of this sooner, quite frankly. Maybe because we were all doing it in person, but I mean, doing it virtually allows us to really tap into all the resources. There are so many really good instructors out there who have different perspectives, right, across the state. So I'm super excited that we've got such a mix of folks who are going to be able to teach in this. So thank you, Monroe. And last but not least, my friend Glenn or Aaron, are either of you on?
Good afternoon, Patty. We are both here. We're in my office listening.
Okay.
Yeah, we have nothing to report. We have no spring class. We don't have any imminent plans for a fall class. Hiring freeze, same whole 9 yards. We're starting to develop some holes, so hopefully that once we can hire folks, maybe we can have a fall class, but who knows.
Okay, and similarly, you and your team have been fantastic contributors to this virtual initiative, so I thank you guys for everything that you've done so far, and I'm sure we will have lots more work together.
Oh, yes.
In the meantime, Kim from New York City has been chatting. She's having some audio difficulties, but they've been trying to get a class going. They originally thought they were going to do one in January. That was delayed. They're, hoping for an approval to do a class of 20 or so, and they're just kind of waiting for that date. And they also are willing to offer some instructors to teach in some of the peace officer modules. So thank you, Kim, for that report and for your efforts. Okay. So I don't think, did I get anyone from Suffolk back on the line here? I don't think so. Suffolk was not planning any academy, and they too have been, helping out with signing up some instructors. So we'll move down to the next item here on the agenda. So as far as, so we're done with the academy stuff, and certainly if folks have questions after this, I'm happy to entertain it. I know it's a little bit difficult to wrap your head around the model. Once you see the schedule, it will make a whole lot more sense to you. And like I said, I'm gonna share that with you once we have a much better idea of the time frames. I just don't want to sell you something that's not going to be the actual way it works. So just give us a little bit more time to get that nailed down. In any event, so moving on, the training, number 5, even though, we weren't able to deliver anything in person, it was pretty impressive what we were able to accomplish virtually. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a big fan of this whole virtual training. I just think it's the way of the future. And these numbers kind of bear it out. So I'm not going to read every one of these lines. I'm going to move you down to page 2 and just kind of take a look at this final number here. So this is from April of 2020 to now, as I'm speaking to you. 5,743 individuals were trained in all of these various different trainings. Some of them were, WebEx trainings. that we were able to do for the masses, right? That's one of the beauties of being able to do things virtually, is that you can get a whole lot more folks in here. But some really big numbers here. And I know Teresa Skanu-Hansen is online going to talk about juvenile stuff, but over 1,000 people. She ran a webinar series on various juvenile justice topics and Caseload Explorer integrations. And that is just a massive number of people who got some training. So, you know, things like that are difficult to duplicate in an in-person classroom, right? So that's kind of the beauty of this curse that we all think of when we think of, you know, the virtual stuff. A lot of other things, like, you know, this includes, of course, our ATI and reentry partners. All of our community corrections folks are in this mix. Another big number here, there was a series of webinar trainings that Michelle Clark and her team in the Vocational Education and Employment Unit, they were able to conduct a series of trainings and got some really big numbers here. Ignition Interlock, another big one, and DWI. 851 people alone there. But a nice variety of things, right? So we've got a little bit of something for everybody. We were able to finish up the rest of the MAISY 2 training. So we delivered a total of 8 webinars that could take up to 100 people. And we trained close to that 800 mark. I don't know the number off the top of my head. This is 103 additional just in the session 7 and 8. But we already had 500 or 600 from the first 6 trainings. So we almost hit that 800 mark, you know, doing those trainings, which is fantastic. That's 800 more people trained out there to deliver the MAISY assessment, which is just amazing. We were also able to create a lot more trainers in interactive journaling. So we were able to do that for, you know, both the Courage to Change and the Forward Thinking series. And we were able to create new trainers in the New York Compass, 12 new trainers in the New York Compass. Coming up later this month, we're going to have the ability to do, what did we say, 3 Static 99 trainings of 50 people in each. So 150 people will be trained by the end of the month to deliver the Static 99. And on we go. So I wanted to put this in here to kind of, it made us feel better, like we were feeling like it was just such a crazy year for training. And then when you pull these numbers, it's like, wow, a lot of this went out the door, like a lot of training went out the door. So I just wanted to be able to share with you the variety of different things that we were able to put out there. And then, of course, I listed the things that are upcoming for the rest of our fiscal year. We have one more basic motivational interviewing class. I think that this will make 6 maybe, if my count is right. 6 basic MIs that we delivered. The Static 99 I just mentioned. By the way, the March 10th and 11th date is full. So I have a few more seats. I'm going to confirm this class probably today. So if you have an urge to get into the February 22nd class, I have a few more seats, but I'm closing it today. And then there are maybe 5 or 6 more seats in the March 16th class. So get your application in. And then the peer support, the officer wellness, this training is going to occur February 23rd to the 25th. And that will round out the training plan that we had for 2020, 2021. And of course, we're looking for all of your input. You know, typically we look at the annual plan submissions. We solicit your input here at the training committee meetings for, you know, what you would like to see on the next training plan, right? I don't want to develop those in a vacuum. I want those to serve your needs. So if there's anything that you would like us to deliver that we, you know, don't typically deliver or, you know, hasn't been discussed already, please let us know. This is our shared mailbox, opcatraining@bcjs.ny.gov. That will go to our entire training unit, and we'll be able to respond to you more promptly. But please feel free to use that mailbox with any of your questions. I have a couple of messages here in the chat. How will staff receive confirmation of Status 99? We're going to, like I said, we're going to send out the confirmation. They roughly go out a week before the training occurs. We were trying to make sure we got all 50 seats filled. So I'm going to close the one, like I said, I closed March 10th. I'm going to close February 22nd and confirm that class. Right now, I'm not cutting anybody. Everybody who put in an application will be accepted. But if you have particular questions and you don't get a confirmation today and your officer signed up for February 22nd, Dan, please reach out to one of us at this mailbox and we'll check our database to see if we've missed somebody. And Kurt is asking, plan virtual format on the station. The plan, Kurt, I think you're talking about SPP. The plan may be to go back to in-person, but quite honestly, I think that the future is either going to be virtual or a blended model. It costs a lot of money for you all to send folks, to Albany or anywhere else. It's a lot of money for overnights, and we get that. And I guess I'm speaking a little bit out of turn because I haven't gotten approval from anybody to say what the future looks like. But in my opinion, I think that if we're able to demonstrate that we can do this virtually and, deliver that content, deliver that training, and officers are getting what they need, I don't know that normal is going to be back in person. I think a hybrid version, as you're mentioning in your message, is the most likely. But you know what? We'll see what happens when we deliver this in April. I'm hoping I get positive feedback from it, but thank you for that question, Kurt. Okay, I'm going to move on the agenda here. We are now at adult operations, and I know that we have a couple folks here from the adult operations, so if you want to unmute and go ahead.
Good afternoon, Patricia. This is Michelle Melendez. Hello, everyone. I hope everybody continues to do well during this crisis that no one expected. But as most of you know, we had scheduled the Decision Points Driving Under the Influence facilitator training back in June of last year. And it was scheduled to be a 3-day training from 9 to 5 every day for a total of 24 hours to train the different departments that deal with IID monitoring and DWI populations. And like Patty said earlier, we had to find other ways to deliver this important training. So we conferred with the authors of the program and tried to find out how can we deliver this program virtually. And even though they weren't able to do so right away, they found a way to accommodate us and were able to break down the lessons. But instead of 3 days, now the Decision Points Driving Under the Influence training is going to take 2 weeks. And even though it's a long time, they were able to break down the lessons to approximately 2.5 to 4 hours each day, depending on what module they were covering. But as you can see here, we have scheduled 2 trainings to train the facilitators from March 15th through the 19th and March 22nd through the 26th. And pretty soon we will be forwarding all the instructor manuals and the paperwork that's needed for everyone to complete the training. The second training we're tentatively scheduling for June 7th through the 11th and 14th through the 18th, again, the same time period, just like Patty mentioned, just to make sure that everyone is learning the information that the authors are trying to bring forth. We're hoping that everything goes well. I know that right now they're doing the General Decision Points program, so I'm hoping that everything is going well there so that when we get to the DUI, Driving Under the Influence part of the program, is able to run smoothly, the same as the one that they're doing now. So everyone is trying to work together to find other means to provide this very important information, because like Lenny and I always try to do, we're trying to help everyone in the department change the offender's way of thinking, their criminal thinking and attitudes, especially for those who are considered repeat offenders, so that in the long term they're able to address all of their deep-rooted attitudes and habits with regards to impaired driving and what causes them to do so, and hopefully, again, provide long-term solutions for them to understand the dangers of impaired driving and refocus on the important things in their lives. Thank you, Patty.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that update. And I believe that is it for the adult operations. I'm going to ask Teresa Skane-Hansen or one of yours.
I'm sorry, Patty. This is Michelle again. We do have the peer support training description coming up on February 23rd to the 25th, but I'll let Danielle speak on it.
Okay. Hi, Patty. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We will be offering the first phase of the peer support team training, which is assisting individuals in crisis. As Patty had stated before, it is scheduled for February 23rd through the 25th from 8 a.m. to 12:30. We have 30 probation officers signed up from 16 counties that will be attending the training. And this course was developed by the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation, and it's also going to be instructed by one of their faculty members, Dr. Jeffrey Ladding. Following the training, what we are in the process of scheduling is a follow-up WebEx call for the week of April 12th. And really what we want to do is just to provide support and a platform for counties to kind of discuss like the implementation strategies, the techniques that they're using, challenges that they may have in providing peer support services during the pandemic, and answering any questions. So we are very much looking forward to this training in February. Thank you.
Hi, Patty, if I could interject for 1 second.
Yeah.
With regards to the decision points driving under the influence, like Danielle said, we do have participants already slotted for the March training, but I just wanted to mention that most of those locations are basically in the northeast part of the state, and as our Deputy Commissioner and Director Robert Macarone has stated many of times, we would like to offer this program to many departments throughout the state. So we will need to focus on the west part of the state. I know there's several departments that already expressed interest, but we want to offer this program to many areas of the state so that we can address the impaired driving, especially in the high-risk areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And Deputy Commissioner Macarone has joined us, so I'm just going to give him a moment to be able to have his comments.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Patty. I'm sorry I was late. I was on the executive committee meeting weekly with the commissioner, and I'll be very brief. I just want to say that I hope you and your families are doing well, and your staff, and that you're taking the precautions that are so important and staying the course, so we all come through this healthy at the end of it. I won't say much about the training except that, wow, have we provided a lot of training, and there's still some exciting training to come between the decision points and the wellness and the static 99Rs. I can't even keep up with it all. We've done everything that we can to use this time and use our funds effectively. And we have been reduced in training funds, consistent with some reductions in state budget. But Patty and her team put together, and the rest of the staff, some really pretty exciting trainings, exhausting all the available training money that we had. So I just encourage directors and training staff development officers to take advantage of these trainings. We want to see the trainings complete. We want to see them full, and we're happy to do it. So it's an exciting time. We're doing a lot of good work, and I hope things are well there for you and your families and your staff. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Okay, so I believe that we have completed the adult operations report out. Thank you, Michelle and Danielle, for that information. And now, Teresa Skanu-Hansen, if you would like to report out on the juvenile operation.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So in the past, we've provided some updates about the collaborative casework coaching model that we began with Orbis Partners training staff around the state in late 2019, and then the coaching component of that began in early 2020. And we were able to complete training coaches in 2 regions before COVID hit, Monroe area and the Erie area. We have since then restarted the initiative with Orbis Partners. They have skillfully translated that curriculum to a web-based training platform. And we will be finalizing training all of the CCW coaches by the end of March. But just to give you kind of the scope of the staff that are being trained across the state, we've got 35 coaches being trained in this model from 27 different probation departments. And if you don't recall what the collaborative casework model is, it's really grounded on one of the modules in fundamentals on case planning and development. But the coaches get really a more intensive level of training to help staff or peers in the department integrate that learning and really refine their assessment practices, refine their case planning, and refine the feedback that they give to the individuals they're working with. So we're really excited. Hopefully, if you have coaches in that program, you're hearing good feedback from them as well. We've been hearing good stuff from them. So they are, we have transitioned, for the final coaches here, we have transitioned into the one-on-one sessions where the Orbis Partners training, whose name is Melanie, the trainer, Melanie, who was originally intended to come into your department physically, is now coming into your department virtually to work with your coach and one of their peers in the office. So hopefully you're hearing good feedback about that. If you have questions about that, let our team know. But we're really excited that Orbis was able to translate that material. Next topic is MAISY 2, which Patty has touched upon. But just to reorient directors and staff development officers, the MAISY 2 mental health screening became a mandate with the modification of regulations for Raise the Age inside of Part 356, which is related to juvenile intake and adjustment for JDs. We did do a variety of trainings rolling out that MAISY mandate. If you feel like staff need to be reminded or need to go back and view some of those trainings, you can find them on the Integrated Justice Portal. Now, this isn't the assessment training, but there are a couple trainings with regard to that we had done at OPCA with regard to the rollout of those. They're in the Integrated Justice Portal. If you go into resources and then reference library and then go to probation, and then there's a specialized supervision section. In there, there's a Raise the Age tab, and you'll find that material in there. So that's the MAISY 2 training. Also, there were a couple SDMs related to the rollout of that. If you go back to SDM 2019-4, you can see a discussion of the MAISY implementation there. And then SDM 2020-2 was really the effective date of the MAISY-2 screening in JD adjustment that became effective April 1st of 2020. So mental health screening is required for JD adjustment services effective April 1 of 2020. And if you're not using the MAISY-2, we've already talked to your department and we know and have approved of another tool you may be using for the mental health screening mandate. On to Part 357. So another piece of regulation that has been amended and is nearing promulgation. Part 357 applies to those probation departments that are performing intake and diversion services for PINS youth, so our status offenders in New York State. So if you're one of those departments that has no role in PINS diversion, don't worry about Part 357, but if you do have a role in PINS intake and or diversion, know that this is coming. And remember, if you will, from some of the legislative changes from January 1st of 2020 related to PINS, there is a requirement for sexual exploitation screening, and we had last year rolled out some training and guidance on the use of the rapid indicator tool. If a department is using something else for that mandate, we've talked about it and approved those alternate tool options. But importantly, when Part 357 is promulgated, there will be a requirement in here as well for mental health screening of PINS diversion youth. So just be mindful of that. And of course, we'll keep you posted as that regulation is finalized. And lastly, Yazzie e-training remains available for any new or transferring staff. Just feel free to reach out to our unit. The email is in the agenda, opcayazzie@dcjs.ny.gov. And we will work with Orbis Partners to issue those e-training. As a reminder, Yazzie e-training takes about 8 to 10 hours to complete online. Officers can stop and start it at their leisure, so it's pretty flexible. And that e-training account is good for 90 days. And I think that covers the juvenile topics, Patty.
Thank you, Teresa. Any questions for Teresa? Feel free to pop those into the chat, or you can simply unmute and ask a question. Okay, so let's turn it over now to Matt Charton, Interstate Unit Manager. Matt? Or any of Matt's staff? Okay, I'm not sure if Matt is on. So the bullets that you see here on the agenda are what he asked be shared. They are currently reviewing the draft of the new Part 349 and sharing that with all of the directors for feedback. Bob, I don't know if you have any other comment regarding this new part, if you wanted to jump in.
No, I don't, Patty.
Okay.
I think we're okay with that.
Okay, great. And then he's also got some ICOP user training planned for March. We'll roll out those dates soon. And then, of course, he's been continuing this quarterly WebEx series. Looks like he's got one that's going to be scheduled in April. But these, I believe, are the kind of topic du jour, whatever things kind of pop up as a need arises. They've been running these quarterly WebExes through his unit. To be able to address those needs. So it looks like he's got some dates coming up to announce in April. So that is it for the interstate unit. I believe Nicole Aldi is here with us from the ATI unit.
I am. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody is well. So first, some exciting news. Our funding was approved and award notices have been sent out for the Article 13 programs, which many probation departments are head of or have programs involved in under that funding. Those we know are starting a bit late, but the good news is that anything that was done will be retroactively be able to be vouchered for back to July 1 of 2020, specifically if you're keeping the same programs, and we appreciate those of you who continued programming when funding was unsure of. So again, you guys have provided a lot to the criminal justice population, and we thank you. It was a quick turnaround. The dates for the service plan and proposed B1s due dates are the 25th of February, but we did make the plan much more comprehensive. So hopefully that will help in the turnaround time. And as always, my staff and I are available to answer any questions, and you all have been asking some great questions, and we appreciate that. And then we will be working on an application for the upcoming year soon, so you'll feel like you're doing applications back to back, but we're hoping that everything is with funding gets back on track so we can start the 21-22 contracts in a timely fashion. Also, there are a few probation departments that run reduction in incarceration and recidivism programs, our RIR funding. Those award letters went out also. And the proposed B1 reviews just need to be in by the 26th of February. Again, our team's available for any questions. We know that there's not a lot of changes that are requesting to be made, which is positive, which shows that we were proactive last year with some of the changes like bail reform that came through to help these programs out, as usual. But I apologize. Hold on a second. Sorry, my office assistant is not a very good office assistant. They make a lot of noise. So that's the 26th. So, of course, if you have any questions, let us know. And we have a couple probation departments that also run the jail-based cognitive behavioral intervention programs. Those letters were sent out the end of last week and are due back March 5th. Same process. Any questions, you can contact the ATI unit. And we were worked with those issues that COVID presented to these programs, which I want to say the jail programs did a fantastic job in serving the people they could with all the barriers that they were confronted with closure. So there were about 319 individuals that completed cognitive-based interventions while incarcerated during this year, which is about a third of what we had contracted for. So again, great job. And finally, we're going to be doing the 2021 Lunch and Learn with our friends at the VARE unit. A lot of those were attended by probation in the fall, and we plan to do a new series, again, that will be open to probation and community corrections professionals coming this spring. And I think those are the highlights for the ATI unit. As always, we appreciate all the work that you all do with the criminal justice population, and we are here for any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate that. The Lunch and Learn series that took place in 2020 was fantastic. So I can't wait to see what you're going to do this year, Nicole. And if you haven't had a chance to take advantage of those, I do believe that they've been recorded. Am I right about that, Nicole?
You are correct.
Great. So
and
you can still
to make those available if people request. I just have to figure out where they are. I'm sure I know where they are. I just got to figure it out.
Great. Thank you so much. And then Michelle Clark, I believe, is here to talk about the Vocational Educational and Employment and Reentry Unit.
Hi, Patty.
Hi, Michelle.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Clark. I'm going to be co-presenting with Frank Cangiano on this section of the training committee agenda with training-related topics such as the one that Nicole Aldi just mentioned, our 2021 Lunch and Learn schedule. They are available on the DCJS website under Reentry Initiatives, as well as the OPCA website, I believe. And if you want to unmute Taylor Alfred, after I'm done delivering this piece of the agenda, she could speak directly to that as well. But yes, the VARE units and ATI units are developing a new series of Lunch and Learns consisting of topics such as implementation, what to expect on DCJS site visits, overview of the distant learning modules, the use of our listservs that we have for ATI and county reentry task forces, and the list goes on. So we'll be delivering some more topics, and they were quite popular, and yes, they were recorded and on our website. So for the next few bullets, I'll turn it over to Frank Gangiano.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And just let me know that you can hear me okay. It looks like people can.
Yeah.
So right now we have closed on our second week of the virtual OWDS training. And we will be starting our third week of this training March 22nd to March 26th, 2021. I just wanted to speak briefly about the development and the facilitation of this training, because just like with Patty's team at the training unit, we took a long time and looked at all the different types of articles and research that were involved with virtual learning. And we, of course, recognize that in order for us to deliver this virtual ODES training, we really could not deliver it 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 days a week virtually, because one, people can't sit down for that long of a time period, as you all know, to receive a training. And two, we really wanted to make sure that we were capturing people's attention and keeping people's attention during the weeks of this training. So we kind of split it up, similar to what Patty was talking about with fundamentals, as far as providing pre-recorded lectures on topics that could have pre-recorded lectures, and recognizing that with the ODES training and how when we were doing this in person, people were already expected to have to do reading assignments every evening. We asked and advised them to complete certain activities that same evening in preparation for the next day of training. So we kind of split this training up as pre-recorded lectures, the reading assignments, which were already a part of the in-person ODES training, as well as asking people to complete activities in preparation for the next day. So right now we have 18 participants that have completed the second week of the training. We also recognize that we really couldn't have up to 30 or even more than 30, because we saw that it was going to be a heavy lift for us to be able to do that. And the research also suggests that having fewer people in a training class virtually is really the way to go. So we opted for that as well. And we also wanted to make sure that when we were delivering the live virtual training, that we were engaging the participants in mostly activity and discussion. We wanted to try to avoid a lecture that lasted a half hour and then diving into an activity. So we made sure that the majority of the time being spent in the live virtual training was spent conducting the activities of the training, as well as having discussions about the topics that were already viewed in the recorded lectures. So I think it's going very well. I want to thank all of the ODES instructors that have helped us in the development of this training. And I also want to thank all of the training participants themselves, because this was really a learning experience for all of us. It still is a learning experience for all of us, and especially for those participants from probation departments. I think we are learning as much, if not more, from you than you are learning from us. So I look forward to completing the training on March 26th and moving forward from there. Does anyone have any questions about the virtual ODES training? The next bullet talks about a training webinar for Retention Counts, our employment retention curriculum. This was a curriculum that was originally developed kind of as a curriculum that can be led by certified ODES for those people who already completed Ready, Set, Work. So this employment retention curriculum was created to help clients who have already completed Ready, Set, Work, who may even be in a job, who may still be looking for a job, teaching them the soft skills necessary to maintain employment. So we are currently developing a webinar to bring this back from where it was. It was in limbo for a while, and I wanted to make sure that we looked at it again, assessed the curriculum, and we're scheduled to deliver a training webinar for certified ODEs on employment retention counts. So please look out for that as well. And I'm not really sure, Michelle, if you wanted me to talk about the New York City EOC Attain program.
Yeah, we can tell them what that's about.
Yeah, so when we originally conducted a statewide training webinar some time ago on the EOCs, or the Educational Opportunity Centers, and the Attain Labs are located across New York State. These centers provide soft skill development as well as hard skill development for all individuals. And it was recognized that many probation departments and probation staff were aware that these programs existed, but weren't really aware of the services they provided in detail. So we held this statewide webinar some time ago, a few months ago, and we are now in the process of developing a New York City region EOC Attain program panel discussion to educate professionals about the resources available to justice-involved youth and adults in the New York City area. So watch out for that webinar as well, as we are still in the process of planning for that.
Thank you, Frank. I think the timetable for that is we're shooting for June. That's our hope. And as Frank said, be on the lookout for that announcement coming up soon. And last but not least, the New York State Vocation Education Resource Map is a new addition here at DCJS, and it's currently located on the DCJS website under Reentry Initiative, as well as the OPCA website front and center when you open that web page. So we've recently added Taylor Alfred and our administrative assistant Allison Moda have added 60 confirmed apprenticeships to that resource map. We encourage probation departments to go to the map and see about all the different resources available across the state to help justice-involved individuals obtain vocational and educational assistance. And that's it for the VERA unit, Patty. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle and Frank. I appreciate that report out. Okay, so we're moving to the end of our agenda here. I just want to give folks an opportunity. If you have other business that you would like to raise at the committee meeting, I would appreciate if you would do that now. You can either unmute or put in the chat. And as always, if something occurs to you after this meeting ends and you'd like to email us, we certainly will take your feedback then as well. So hearing nothing else, just a quick recap. If anyone joined later, I know the FPP Academy is on everyone's mind. As I mentioned, we will be, we're planning to send out the announcement by the end of this month after we've had a chance to get the timing right on the pre-recorded modules, and we can send you a more accurate schedule. But for now, it looks like ballpark, we're starting April 5th, ending around May 7th for that first cohort of about 19 students, and then looking for the second academy to start in June and go through June and part of July, and that will catch up the backlog that was created. And then we can, figure out what the future looks like from there. But I just wanted to mention that in case folks had jumped on late. Okay, so the only thing that I
Patty,
have left
is Bob. Can I just jump in? I hate to interrupt you, but, something just occurred to me, and that is, of course, we've had to delay the fundamentals, and we've gone virtual. I think we all understand that. But there is an issue with some people qualifying with a firearm in those departments that assign firearms. And it is important, and you may have touched on this earlier, but I think it's, I want to make sure that it's clear that a person may be trained in firearms and still not possess all the qualifications as a peace officer until such time they complete the fundamentals of practice curriculum. So in those cases, departments have to be very, very careful about allowing that individual to carry a firearm and do peace officer-related responsibilities. The firearm is particularly the one that concerns me because there may be a liability there, God forbid, that they use that in the course of an emergency where they come to the aid of perhaps another law enforcement officer, which is certainly within the realm of peace officer responsibilities. So be careful about that, departments, because I'm concerned if you can discuss this further with your own county attorneys if you want more information on that. But clearly, because of the COVID, because of the delays in the training, this is an area of liability, and departments should not be assigning individuals the authority to carry a weapon, even though they've been weapons trained, until such time they're a full-fledged peace officer certified through the FPP. Okay?
Thank you, Bob, for making that point. And of course, if there are more questions, you can certainly follow up. We'll be happy to discuss that. So the next meeting of the training committee will be in May. May 18th is the scheduled time. I've sent out the schedule in advance, and I can certainly send that out to folks who need it. But we will reconvene this group on May 18th. If any questions have come up in the meantime about anything we've discussed, again, I just want to encourage you to use the shared mailbox, which I'll pull back up here on the screen for you. opcatraining@dcjs.ny.gov. Please feel free to send any questions or comments to us. So I want to thank you all for your participation. This was a really good meeting, very well attended, and I appreciate all of the feedback and commentary. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Thank you.